What if healing is learning how to come home to yourself? I'm Alison Vadi-Capps of Blossoming Heart Wellness, and today I want to explore a realization that has been unfolding for me recently. And it's in a simple statement, but it carries a lot of meaning. And the statement is, I always come home. And the more I sit with it, the more I realize how much it connects with spirituality, psychology, neuroscience, and trauma healing, and what it means to actually be human. Because many of us spend years trying to find stability by controlling our external circumstances. We try to prevent pain. We try to prevent loss. We try to prevent disappointment. We try to prevent uncertainty. We try to prevent activation. We try to prevent suffering. But life keeps reminding us that we cannot control everything, that people change, bodies change, relationships change, the world changes. And sometimes things happen that we would never choose. So the question becomes, if life cannot always be controlled, where does stability come from? Let's explore. Let's explore the myth of permanence. Many spiritual traditions are interpreted as though the goal is permanent peace, permanent regulation, permanent happiness, permanent enlightenment, permanent certainty. And while I understand the longing behind these ideas, I'm a human being and I too long for them. I think they can unintentionally create suffering, because what happens when we are grieving? What happens when our bodies feel overwhelmed? What happens when we're angry because our boundaries have been violated? What happens when our nervous system becomes activated because of something in our external circumstances? When we believe that peace is a final state, when we become activated or struggle, many of us begin asking, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I stay in a peaceful state? What if peace was never meant to be a permanent state? What if being human means moving through many states? What if healing is about not never leaving our center? What if healing is about knowing how to return? What does psychology teach us? From a psychological perspective, healing is not about the elimination of emotional experiences. It is the development of a different relationship with our emotional experiences. Healthy people still feel grief. Healthy people still feel angry. Healthy people still experience disappointment. Healthy people still get triggered. The difference is not the absence of emotions. The difference is the ability to navigate them and to stay connected with ourselves while they occur, to repair when we lose contact with our center, to find our way back home. In internal family systems, we might describe this as returning to self, returning to the part of us that is the witness, the part of us that can hold complexity, the part of us that can lead with compassion, not because difficult emotions disappear, but because we learn that we are larger than any single emotion. What does neuroscience teach us? Well, neuroscience teaches us something very similar. The nervous system is designed to move, to fluctuate. It shifts between activation and recovery, protection and connection, stress and regulation. This is not dysfunction. This is how a healthy nervous system works. The goal is not permanent regulation. The goal is actually flexibility, the ability to recover, the ability to return, the ability to reconnect. A resilient nervous system is not one that never gets disrupted. It is one that is able to find its way back to its center again and again. What does spirituality teach us? Well, many spiritual traditions speak of a deeper essence, a deeper awareness, a deeper presence beneath the fluctuations of life. Some call this self. Some call it soul. Some call it consciousness. Some call it the divine within. Some call it Christ consciousness. Some call it God. Some call it Sophia. Different traditions use different language, but many point to similar experiences. It points to the realization that there is something within us that remains present even as life changes. Not untouched by life, not disconnected from life, but capable of witnessing life, capable of holding life, capable of returning to steadiness, to peace, to compassion. This isn't about becoming detached from our humanity. It's about becoming anchored within our humanity. How does trauma change the conversation? Well, this is where trauma-informed healing becomes so important, because many people have experienced situations where it is not safe to come home to themselves. Maybe they learned it was safer to disconnect. Maybe they learned that survival meant hypervigilance. Maybe they learned that they needed to abandon their own needs in order to stay connected. Maybe they learned to stay focused on everyone else because when they expressed something for themselves, they were punished. These responses were not failures, and they are not failures. They are intelligent adaptations. They are intelligent survival strategies. When I talk about coming home to yourself, I don't mean forcing yourself to be calm, and I don't mean overriding your nervous system. I don't mean pretending everything is okay. I mean slowly, gently, compassionately rebuilding a relationship with yourself, all of yourself, in all of your complexity, learning that your emotions can be held, learning that your experiences can be witnessed, learning that your humanity belongs. This is something that I've been reflecting on. What if home isn't a feeling? It isn't happiness. It isn't perfect regulation. What if home isn't certainty? What if home is actually the relationship with yourself? Because feelings change, life changes, circumstances changes, but the relationship can remain the same. The willingness to return can remain. The commitment to compassion can remain. The ability to begin again can remain. And perhaps that is where true stability lives. Maybe awakening is not never leaving center. Maybe healing is not never becoming activated. Maybe wisdom is not eliminating struggle. Maybe the practice is learning how to return to awareness, return to compassion, return to boundaries, return to presence, return to reality, return to yourself again and again and again, because you are not failing when you get triggered. You are being human, and being a human being is a beautiful and sacred thing. Here's an embodied reflection that I invite you to contemplate. I invite you to take a few deep breaths, and I invite you to ask yourself, when life becomes difficult, where do I go? What helps me find my way back? What helps me remember what I am beneath the fear, the stress, the grief, and the uncertainty? And perhaps most importantly, what if I could trust that no matter what happens, I can always find my way home again? I invite you to allow yourself to sit with that question. No pressure, no forcing, just listening. More and more, I find myself believing that healing is not about achieving a perfect state. It's about cultivating a relationship with myself that remains available through the changing seasons of life, a relationship built on acceptance and compassion rather than judgment, presence rather than perfection, a trust rather than control. Perhaps the deepest wisdom is not that we never get lost. Perhaps the deepest wisdom is learning that we always know our way home. Thank you for being here. And if this resonates, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What helps you come home to yourself? And if you'd like to explore more trauma-informed conversations that bridge spirituality, psychology, neuroscience, and healing, I invite you to subscribe or visit my website, blossomingheartwellness.com, to learn more about how to work with me and online courses, or read my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World, or sign up for my newsletter to learn more about my upcoming courses and my new book, Self-Love. Until next time, I am sending you deep love and appreciation for wherever you are on your journey of healing, awakening, and remembering.